Welcome back to the Wednesday Word of the Week. This week's word is baptism. And baptism in Koine is baptismos, ho baptismos. It's a masculine noun, and the verb form is baptizo, I baptize, and it comes from an older form, bapto, and that older form traces its roots back to the work of fullers. So what is a fuller? We don't. Most of us do our own laundry these days. A fuller in the ancient world was someone who took fabric, cloth, wool, yarn, that sort of thing, and either dyed it to turn it a color or bleached it. And their work was baptism. So if you brought in this fabric that you have made on a loom, you've spun wool and weaved it into this fabric, the fuller would take it and baptize it, submerge it in a solution that would either bleach it white or would dye it to the color that you had requested. So baptism was literally immersion. The word means to immerse something. You would not try, unless you're doing some sort of wacky tie-dye experiment, you would not try to dye cloth or bleach cloth by sprinkling or wiping a little solution on it. You immerse it, you submerge it, you dunk it, you baptize it, and bring it out a different color than it went in. Come, let us reason together. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Immersed into something else and coming out renewed. It's a pretty cool word. There's a couple other notions about it that we find in the New Testament. It is volitional. We only see baptism recorded of people who want to be baptized. That brings around a second factor. There's not a record of infant baptism in the New Testament. Baptism being volitional means that a person has to be of an age to want to do it. You have to understand what you're doing and to participate. Somewhere out there, somebody's getting a little bent out of shape and saying, wait a minute, in my faith tradition, we christen, we baptize infants, and we confirm them in the faith later. That's fine. I'm not here to be concerned with what you do or don't do, or why you do it or don't do it. I'm only talking about the Word and its existence in the New Testament and the world thereof. A little over a year and a half ago, my wife and I traveled to Italy for our 30th wedding anniversary, and we toured a lot of old churches. And if you're in an old church in Italy, it is a Catholic church. And one of the coolest things that I saw in these very old churches, 800, 900, 1,000-year-old churches, were the baptistries. There was, I'm going to pop up a picture of one or two of them. The baptistries were these massive, solid chunk of marble carvings that when you look at them, one thing is obvious. They're big enough to fit a half a dozen or more people at a time in, and they are by no means intended for the use of a little bit of sprinkling of water. This is a place to take big grown folks like myself and baptize them, dip them, immerse them, submerge them into water and bring them back out. One of my favorite passages about baptism is in Romans 6, where the Apostle Paul describes it as being baptized into Christ's death, burial, and resurrection. And if you think about this immersive process, so a person, going back to Mark 16 from our last get-together on Koine Corner, Jesus said, go into the world, preach the gospel to all creation, and anyone who comes to faith and is baptized will be saved, and the one who doesn't come to faith will be condemned. But being baptized is being baptized into the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ. You go into the water, you're cut off from the rest of the world, you'll probably close your eyes, you'll definitely stop breathing, and you're briefly cut off from the land of the living. And then you're brought back up out of the water into a first breath, a new first breath, kind of a resurrection to go forward in this new life with Christ. It's great symbolism, very powerful, and all comes from this notion of bapto. I immerse, I submerge, and that which goes in one color comes out another. Clean, white, whiter. We think of the transfiguration. It says that Jesus' garment was whiter than any fuller could bleach it. Participation with Jesus in the New Testament, that faith participation in the gospel that often leads to baptism, participation in his life, death, burial, and resurrection allows us to come out in newness of life, forgiven of sins, whiter than any fuller could bleach us. Baptism, baptismos, baptizo is the verb, bapto is the older form of the verb, means to immerse, submerge, and right now I think I'm going to go baptize a few cookies in some milk. Thanks for being with us today, and as always, Charis Kai Reina Humin, grace and peace to you. Hit subscribe, like, share, and all that good stuff. And thanks again.